Welcome to Candidate Conversations, part of Delaware Debates 2016, produced by Delaware Public Media in collaboration with the University of Delaware's Center for Political Communication and with support from AARP. I'm Delaware Public Media News Director Tom Byrne. The conversation, taped here on the campus of Delaware State University, focuses on the race for U.S. House. We are joined by Libertarian Party candidate Scott Gesty. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Well, first, let's talk about your background and what you feel in your background separates you from the other candidates running that makes you more qualified for the job.
Well, I worked in the financial service industry for over 23 years. I'm a certified public accountant practicing here in Delaware, so I have a good fundamental understanding of the economics. Very strict constitutionalist. It's spent a lot of time making sure that I understand that very well, and we keep I think I'll keep to those principles more than any other of the candidates we have, and I think that's attractive in this election cycle. I also got my master's last year, so very excited about that. And I'm not a career politician. I mean, I've always run for this office with the understanding that I was doing it to give people a choice outside the two-party system. And what a year to have to be a libertarian, in my opinion. I mean, in my opinion, the Republicans and Democrats with their presidential hopefuls have handed us a gift on a platter, because so many people are looking for an alternative outside of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, who will be nominated this week. So I think that's going to trickle down. I think it's going to get people open to our message, researching the message, instead of me having to knock down their door. I'm having a lot more people knocking on my door and asking questions. And I think with my business background and my constitutional faith and just not being part of the whole two-party duopoly that I think everybody has gotten a little bit fed up with, I think we're the perfect niche, and I'm the perfect man for the job.
None of the candidates in the field this year, yourself included, have been elected to a statewide office. A lot of people see that perhaps a prerequisite for holding a top-tier office like the congressional seat. What would you say to a voter who is concerned about your level of experience and your ability to go to Washington if elected and get things done? Yeah,
it's a fair question, but it falls back to what I said before. I mean, the original congressmen back in the day, they were all citizens. They weren't career politicians. They had jobs. They went to Washington, D.C. a couple times a year to legislate and do business, and then they went home. I'm the exact same way. I don't think my lack of experience, in the political realm is a detriment. I think it's a benefit, and it'll give me the opportunity, since I've worked with people before, in the corporate world. I've been in front of people. My background right now is training and development, so I'm up in front of people. I'm educating people. I think I can work with both sides of the aisle, and not being in that partisan politics, being part of a party and having to tote the party line, in a state legislature. I just think it's got all positives to it.
And let's talk about getting things done in Washington, because obviously that has been problematic over the last few years. If elected, what do you see as your role, and what do you bring to the table to help resolve that partisan divide in D.C.?
Well, being libertarian, I've always said that we take the best of qualities of both the two parties. So I think that puts you right there in the middle to begin with. The people are willing to listen to you because they know that there's a good chance that you're not somebody who's just going to be turned off to everything they say, that you're a hardcore Democrat, you're a hardcore Republican, and you just can't shake hands or cross the line or even have a civil conversation about the issues that are affecting our citizens here in Delaware today. So I think that puts me right there up top. I mean, part of what I would go there for is we got to get our economics situation in mind. With everything else that's been going on in the world, lately in the last few months, I think that's kind of drifted away. People have kind of forgotten, that by the time Election Day gets here, we're going to have a $20 trillion hole that we have to plug, and it's just getting bigger. It's just getting bigger, and I haven't seen anything from any of the other candidates that is going to realistically solve that problem. We need somebody who's going to push for an amendment to the Constitution to balance the budget, and then we need to start bringing in revenues and higher. And I don't mean by taxes. We don't need to raise taxes, but we need to get the tax base up, and we need to cut. We need to cut areas of government that are just wasting taxpayer dollars, and there's no way to prove return on investment of those. So that's one of my top priorities. When I get to Washington, is we need to start having a civil, logical conversation about what we're going to do to cut this debt.
I want to talk a little bit more about the economy, because certainly concerns about creating and retaining jobs in Delaware has been front and center this year, particularly in the wake of the Dow-DuPont merger. What steps would you take to boost economic growth, broaden that tax base, increase wages, and just generally create jobs here in the first state or elsewhere?
First thing you need to do is you need to address the tax code. We need to lower the corporate tax. Zero would be preferable. We also need to eliminate the individual federal income tax. We need to abolish the IRS, and we need to create a national consumption tax. That's the way you go and you pay your tax whenever you buy goods and services. This way, everybody has skin in the game. Everybody, is contributing to the tax base, and you have control over your money. You know when you spend the money, some of it's going to go to the federal government. So you have an active decision. They just don't take it from you before you even get it to see it. So you have more money to spend. When corporations have less tax burden, they can hire more people. They can invest in R&D. You talk about bringing manufacturing jobs back here. We do that by making it an attractive place to work. So companies don't ship the jobs overseas, because that's been what's going on for years, and it's still going on. It's going on in the industry I'm in right now. So we need to address the taxes. We need to address the regulations, and then once we do that, business growth will increase, hiring will increase, people will have more money, people will spend more, and we won't have to worry about the tax man at the end of every year. I know there's some accountants out there probably saying, "What are you doing, Scott? You're a CPA." But I would preferably not have to do my clients' taxes in lieu of letting them keep their money and growing the economy.
This has been a difficult summer in many places across the country. High number of incidents of individuals being shot by police, and conversely, police being shot by individuals. And that seems to have created increased tension between law enforcement and many of the communities in which they serve. If elected, what can you do to help build back some of that trust between law enforcement and the people that they serve?
It's more of a state issue than a federal issue. I mean, but we could certainly make sure that we're working with local law enforcement and local civic groups to keeping the dialogue open. I mean, I don't think there's anything Washington can physically do to solve this problem. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's a loss of respect people have for one another. And I think it's also the media. It has a part in this too as well. I'm sorry to say. I mean, they highlight the worst situations possible, and that gets thrown across the screen, and people get angry. And when people get angry, you can only push people so far before they lash out. And we can't have that type of that kind of environment around here. We have to have open discourse, and people just need to know that there's somebody else that outside of them that also has families, who also gets hurt by situations like this on both sides. And when you start realizing that and you live by the golden rule, then I think things will get a little bit better. I mean, it's going to be a long process. It took a long time to get here to where we are. It's going to take a long time to reverse. There's
also the issue of terrorism, security threats today, both domestically and internationally. How do you help maintain and ensure that Americans are both safe and free, which at times seem to be at odds with each other?
Yes, I mean, I'm definitely not a fan of the Patriot Act here in the United States. Now, when it comes to keeping us safe from overseas threats, I mean, foreigners don't have constitutional rights. I mean, we should spend as much money as we need. I shouldn't say that. It's much money that makes sense to make sure that we're keeping tabs on what's going on, especially in the hotspots over in the world where there are many groups and like ISIS and still Al Qaeda, who want to do us harm here, and we should keep an eye on them. But we also need to respect the civil liberties of the people here at home. We can't be spying on people. We can't be gathering their data without a warrant. That's firmly against the Bill of Rights, and we shouldn't be doing that. Also, I think we really need to take a look at our foreign policy to make us safer from terrorism. I mean, just the other day, there was an article that came out where in Syria, we saw a bunch of 85 people or so we thought were ISIL terrorists that were trying to move from one place to another, and we droned and killed all 85 people. Well, it turns out none of them were ISIL terrorists. There were just families moving from one area to another, and 85 people were killed, men, women, and children as low as young as 3 years old. And when we do that, that has blowback. I mean, the member of those families and the people who are killed are going to remember that, and they're not going to like us, and it's going to take a long time to heal that wound. So I think we need to address our foreign policy. We need to keep open dialogue here at home, and we need to make sure that we do protect the civil rights of Americans while at the same time doing what we need to do overseas and foreign non-citizens here to make sure that we keep an eye on them and make sure they're not out to do us harm.
Let's talk about immigration. It's also been a key issue in recent years. What is your position on undocumented immigrants here in the U.S. and America opening its doors to refugees from war-torn countries like Syria?
I don't think we should open our borders to refugees from Syria. I mean, we have enough people here at home that we need to take care of first before we start worrying about, how we're going to take care of other people, that are fleeing other. I mean, there's countries in region that should be taking these people in, and just saying that, well, United States, you're overseas, you have to be a part of all this too. I think they'd be more beneficial for them to stay at home, closer to home for when they can go back when things calm down and when things get straightened out. With regards to immigration and the undocumented workers that are here, I don't believe, like some in the Republican Party, we deport these people. They've been here a long time. They're doing jobs that some Americans won't take. They have communities here. They built families here. We need to have a reasonable policy on getting these people documented, where they're not scared to come document, streamline the process. And we need to have open borders with a simple process. I mean, I don't believe in putting walls up around the country and around our southern border, and even the northern border for that matter. So, we just need to speed up the process, and we need to just make sure that we don't alienate these people who have been here for a while, and we certainly shouldn't. They should be willing to come and work through the new documentation process once we work our way through that, and then we can get them all straightened out and get them legal, and then we can have a quicker transition for people coming over here to want to work that won't do jobs that Americans won't do.
I want to finish up on education. President Obama has proposed making 2 years of community college free for all Americans. What do you feel about that policy? And more broadly, what do you feel the federal government's role, if any, is in education from pre-K through college?
Well, I certainly don't believe in free college. College is something that a service that you should buy on your own. You shouldn't rely on taxpayer dollars to pay for your education. If you need to borrow the money, you borrow the money, you pay it back. There's talk on the Democratic side, to just extinguish $1.3 trillion in student loan debt. So, these students and these families entered into a contract, for a loan for education they'll pay back someday, and they should pay it back. As far as the federal government's role in local education, I don't think it should have any. I've mentioned multiple times that we should shut down the Department of Education. Some people believe that it's been around since the late 1700s. I mean, it's been around since the late 70s. It's a new entity. Last time I checked the budget, they only provide Delaware like 4% of the total education budget, but they make us jump through all kinds of hoops. And to get that 4%, they force Common Core down our throats, which I don't believe in. I think we should be able to opt out of Common Core. That was the teachers union's opinion. Also, we should be able to opt out our kids from smarter balanced testing, which was passed by the Delaware legislature, but it was vetoed by Governor Markell. Basically thumbed his nose at the people of Delaware who didn't want to participate in these government-forced programs upon us. So no, I think the control of schools should be in local hands. I think it should belong to local educators. They're closer to our students. They're closer to our communities. They're the professionals, okay, not bureaucrats in Washington telling them what they need to do to make things right. So the federal government should have virtually zero role in education locally.
Scott Gesty, Libertarian Party candidate for U.S. House. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And you can find all of our candidate conversations online at DelawarePublic.org and DelawareDebates.org. Candidate conversations are taped at Delaware State University and are part of Delaware Debates 2016, produced by Delaware Public Media in collaboration with the University of Delaware's Center for Political Communication, with support from AARP. Thanks for watching.